Dandavat Pranam. Namaste. All glories to Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Canto 1, Creation, Chapter 9, Text 20. Yam manyase matuleyam priyam mitram suhrittamam akaro sachivam dutam sauhridhadata saratim. O king, that personality whom out of ignorance only you thought to be your maternal cousin, your very dear friend, well-wisher, counselor, messenger, benefactor, etc., is that very personality of Godhead, Sri Kṛṣṇa. Purport. Lord Sri Kṛṣṇa, although acting as the cousin, brother, friend, well-wisher, counselor, messenger, benefactor, etc. of the Pandavas, was still the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Out of his causeless mercy and favor upon his unalloyed devotees, he performs all kinds of service, but that does not mean that he has changed his position as the Absolute Person. To think of him as an ordinary man is the grossest type of ignorance. Text 21. Sarvatmana samadrisho yadvasyan ahan krite tatkritamati vaishamyam nirvadhyasya na kvachit. Being the absolute personality of Godhead, he is present in everyone's heart. He is equally kind to everyone, and he is free from the false ego of differentiation. Therefore, whatever he does is free from material inebriety. He is equibalanced. Purport. Because he is absolute, there is nothing different from him. He is Kaivalya. There is nothing except himself. Everything and everyone is the manifestation of his energy, and thus he is present everywhere by his energy, being non-different from it. The sun identified with every inch of the sun rays and molecular particle of the rays. Similarly, the Lord is distributed by his different energies. He is Paramatma, or the Supersoul, present in everyone as a supreme guidance, and therefore he is already the chariot driver and counsel of all living beings. When he therefore exhibits himself as a chariot driver of Arjuna, there is no change in his exalted position. It is the power of devotional service only that demonstrates him as the chariot driver or the messenger. Since he has nothing to do with the material conception of life, because he is absolute spiritual identity, there is for him no superior or inferior action. Being the absolute personality of Godhead, he has no false ego, and so he does not identify himself with anything different from him. The material conception of ego is equibalanced in him. He does not feel, therefore, inferior by becoming the chariot driver of his pure devotee. It is the glory of the pure devotee that only he can bring about service from the affectionate Lord. Text 22. Tatapyekanta bhakteshu pasya bhupanu kampitam yanme sumschajata sakshat Kṛṣṇo darshanam agata. Yet, despite his being equally kind to everyone, he has graciously come before me while I am ending my life, for I am his unflinching servitor. Purport. The Supreme Lord, the Absolute Personality of Godhead, Sri Kṛṣṇa, although equal to everyone, is still more inclined to his unflinching devotee who is completely surrendered and knows no one else as his protector and master. Having unflinching faith in the Supreme Lord as one's own protector, friend, and master is the natural condition of eternal life. A living entity is so made by the will of the Almighty that he is most happy when placing himself in a condition of absolute dependence. The opposite tendency is the cause of fall down. The living entity has this tendency of falling down by dint of misidentifying himself as fully independent to lord it over the material world. The root cause of all troubles is there in false egotism. One must draw towards the Lord in all circumstances. The appearance of Lord Kṛṣṇa at the deathbed of Bhīṣmadeva is due to his being an unflinching devotee of the Lord. Arjuna had some bodily relation with Kṛṣṇa because the Lord happened to be his maternal cousin, but Bhīṣma had no such bodily relation. Therefore the cause of attraction was due to the intimate relation of the soul. Yet because the relation of the body is very pleasing and natural, the Lord is more pleased when he is addressed as the son of Maharaj Nanda, the son of Yashoda, the lover of Radharani. This affinity by bodily relation with the Lord is another feature of reciprocating loving service with the Lord. Bhīṣmadeva is conscious of the sweetness of transcendental humor, and therefore he likes to address the Lord as Vijaya Shake, Partha Shake, etc., exactly like Nanda Nandana or Yashoda Nandana. The best way to establish our relation in transcendental sweetness is to approach him through his recognized devotees. One should not try to establish the relation directly. There must be a medium which is transparent and competent to lead us to the right path. Text 23. Bhaktya Vesya Mano Yasmin Vachaya Nama Kirtayan Tyajan Kalevaram Yogi Muchate Kama Karmabhi. The personality of Godhead, who appears in the mind of the devotee by attentive devotion and meditation and by chanting of the holy name, releases the devotee from the bondage of fruitive activities at the time of his quitting the material body. Purport. Yoga means concentration of the mind, detached from all other subject matter, and actually such concentration is samadhi, or cent% engagement in the service of the Lord. And one who concentrates his attention in that manner is called a yogi. Such a yogi, devotee of the Lord, engages himself 24 hours daily in the service of the Lord, so that his whole attention is engrossed with the thoughts of the Lord in ninefold devotional service, namely hearing, chanting, remembering, worshipping, praying, becoming a voluntary servant, carrying out orders, establishing a friendly relationship, or offering all that one may possess in the service of the Lord. By such practice of yoga, or linking up in the service of the Lord, one is recognized by the Lord himself, as it is explained in the Bhagavata concerning the highest perfectional stage of samadhi. The Lord calls such a rare devotee the best amongst all the yogis. Such a perfect yogi is enabled by the divine grace of the Lord to concentrate his mind upon the Lord with a perfect sense of consciousness, and thus by chanting his holy name before quitting the body, the yogi is at once transferred by the internal energy of the Lord to one of the eternal planets where there is no question of material life and its concomitant factors. In material existence, a living being has to endure the material conditions of threefold miseries, life after life, according to his fruit of work. Such material life is produced by material desires only. Devotional service to the Lord does not kill the natural desires of the living being, but they are applied in the right cause of devotional service. This qualifies the desire to be transferred to the spiritual sky. In general, Bhīṣmadeva is referring to a particular type of yoga called Bhakti Yoga, and he was fortunate enough to have the Lord directly in his presence before he quitted his material body. He therefore desired that the Lord stay before his view in the following verses. 24. Sadeva devo bhagavan pratikshatam kalevaram yavadidam hinom yaham prashanna hasaruna lochano lasan mukham bujo dhyana patas chatur buja. May my Lord, who is four-handed and whose beautifully decorated lotus face, with eyes as red as the rising sun, is smiling kindly, await me at that moment when I quit this material body. Purport. Bhīṣmadeva knew well that Lord Kṛṣṇa is the original Narayana. His worshipable deity was four-handed Narayana, but he knew that four-handed Narayan is a plenary expansion of Lord Kṛṣṇa. Indirectly, he desired Lord Kṛṣṇa to manifest himself in his four-handed feature of Narayan. A Vaishnava is always humble in his behavior. Although it was his cent% certain that Bhīṣmadeva was approaching Vaikuntha-dham just after leaving his material body, still as a humble Vaishnava he desired to see the beautiful face of the Lord, for after quitting the present body, he might not be in a position to see the Lord anymore. A Vaishnava is not puffed up, although the Lord guarantees his pure devotee entrance into his abode. Here Bhīṣmadeva says, as long as I do not quit this body. This means that the great general would quit the body by his own will. He was not being forced by the laws of nature. He was so powerful that he could stay in his body as long as he desired. He got this benediction from his father. He desired that the Lord stay before him and his four-handed Narayana feature, so that he might concentrate upon him and thus be entranced in that meditation. Then his mind might be sanctified with thinking of the Lord. Thus he did not mind wherever he might go. A pure devotee is never very anxious to go back to the kingdom of God. He entirely depends on the good will of the Lord. He is equally satisfied even if the Lord desires him to go to hell. The only desire that a pure devotee entertains is that he may always be in rapt attention with thinking of the lotus feet of the Lord, regardless. Bhīṣmadeva wanted this much only, that his mind be absorbed in thinking of the Lord, and that he pass away thus. That is the highest ambition of a pure devotee. Text 25. Sutta uvacha yudhishthirastad akarnya sadhyanam sara panjare apruchad vividhan dharman Kṛṣṇam chanus Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Sutta Goswami said, Maharaj Yudhisthira, after hearing Bhīṣmadeva speak in that appealing tone, asked him in the presence of all the great rishis about the essential principles of various religious duties. Purport. Bhīṣmadeva, speaking in that appealing tone, convinced Maharaj Yudhisthira that he was very soon passing away. And Maharaj Yudhisthira was inspired by Lord Sri Kṛṣṇa to ask him of the principles of religion. Lord Sri Kṛṣṇa inspired Maharaj Yudhisthira to ask Bhīṣmadeva in the presence of many great sages, indicating thereby that the Lord's devotee, like Bhīṣmadeva, although apparently living as a worldly man, is far superior to many great sages, even Vyasadeva. Another point is that Bhīṣmadeva at that time was not only lying on a deathbed of arrows, but was greatly aggrieved because of that state. One should not have asked him any question at that time, but Lord Sri Kṛṣṇa wanted to prove that his pure devotees are always sound in body and mind by dint of spiritual enlightenment, and thus in any circumstances a devotee of the Lord in his perfect order to speak the right way of life. Yudhisthira also preferred to solve his problematic questions by asking Bhīṣmadeva rather than by asking anyone else present, who was seemingly more learned than Bhīṣmadeva. This is all due to the arrangement of the great wheel carrier, Lord Sri Kṛṣṇa, who establishes the glories of his devotee. The father likes to see the son become more famous than himself. The Lord declares very emphatically that worship of his devotee is more valuable than the worship of the Lord himself. Text 26. Purushasva bhavavihitan yatha varnam yatha shranam vairagyarago padhibhyam amnato bhaya lakshanam. At Maharaj Yudhisthira's inquiry, Bhīṣmadeva first defined all the classifications of castes and orders of life in terms of the individual's qualifications. Then he systematically, in twofold divisions, described counteraction by detachment and interaction by attachment. Purport. The conception of 4 castes and 4 orders of life as planned by the Lord himself in Bhagavad Gita 4.13 is to accelerate transcendental qualities of the individual person so that he may gradually realize his spiritual identity and thus act accordingly to get free from material bondage or conditional life. In almost all the Puranas, the subject matter is described in the same spirit, and so also in the Mahabharata. It is more elaborately described by Bhīṣmadeva in the Shanti Parva, beginning from the 16th chapter. The Varnashram Dharma is prescribed for the civilized human being, just to train him to successfully terminate human life. Self-realization is distinguished from the life of the lower animals engaged in eating, sleeping, fearing, and mating. Bhīṣmadeva advised for all human beings 9 qualifications. 1. Not to become angry. 2. Not to lie. 3. To equally distribute wealth. 4. To forgive. 5. To beget children only by one's legitimate wife. 6. To be pure in mind and hygienic in body. 7. Not to be inimical toward anyone. 8. To be simple. And 9. To support servants or subordinates. One cannot be called civilized. One cannot be called a civilized person without acquiring the above-mentioned preliminary qualities. Besides these, the brahmanas, the intelligent men, the administrative men, the mercantile community, and the laborer class must acquire special qualities in terms of occupational duties mentioned in all the Vedic scriptures. For the intelligent men, controlling the senses is the most essential qualification. It is the basis of morality. Sex indulgence, even with a legitimate wife, must also be controlled, and therefore family control will automatically follow. An intelligent man abuses his great qualifications if he does not follow the Vedic way of life. This means that he must seriously make a study of the Vedic literatures, especially out of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam and Śrīmad-Bhāgavad. For learning Vedic knowledge, one must approach a bona fide spiritual person who is 100% engaged in devotional service. He must not do things which are forbidden in the Shastras. A person cannot be a teacher if he drinks or smokes. In the modern society of that education, the teacher's academic qualification is taken into consideration without evaluation of his moral life. Therefore, the result of education is misuse of high intelligence in so many ways. Thus ends our reading for today. All glories to Om Vishnupad Shripad Bhaktimadhava Puri Maharaj Ki Jai. All glories to Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Nirmala Charja Maharaj Ki Jai. All glories to Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. All glories to Om Vishnupad Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. All glories to Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Rakshakshara Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. All glories to Om Vishnupad Jagad Guru Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada Ki Jai. All glories to Arupanuga Guru Varga Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the worldwide devotees. Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to Navadvip Dham Ki Jai. Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Nishingapali Dham Ki Jai. Ekachakra Dham Ki Jai. Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Jai Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Jai Baladev Subhadra Jagannath Ju Ki Jai. Jai Giri Govardhan Gupta Govardhan Dham Ki Jai. Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Vrinda Devi Ki Jai. Nitai Gora Hari 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 Bol. Dandavat Pranam.